class. So today we are going to be talking about talking about American literature. The areas that I covered and picked up are looking at the New England area, and it is somewhere in the area. It's around the area of the mid 1600s. So when you look at literature from the past, and even at this point in time in the past, it does seem like you're actually listening to a foreign language because, in some sense, you are dealing with a foreign language and everything seems alien because everything changes over time. Um, with the language in general, the English language is a very unique language. It actually is one that has evolved and morphed drastically over the years. So if you look at your early English, what is called Old English sounds very much like German. It's not the stuff that everybody's like, oh, that's Old English when you hear the thou, though, and all that. That's not Old English. That's about Mid English. That's actually in the area that's where your King James Bible and that is written. That's around Mid English. And then you have Modern English, which is the start of what the English that we speak today. Though words do change over time, it still has the same feeling. It's not as hard to understand as going back to mid. And yeah, I don't even do old. But that's one of the unique things about this. How did the language get to that way? You look at kind of the history of the language. So you have the Dutch and you had the Norse and all that who came into this area, and they brought in the language, and they also had their language was there. So there's a kind of a merging of that. Then you of course have the Romans who come in. When the Romans come in, the Romans end up bringing in the Latin languages. So then when you have this Latin languages coming in, the upper class spoke French, the upper English class, or the upper class of the English. Your middle to lower class, they all spoke this Germanic form of English. Then you had in the law and anything in medicine and bookkeeping were all done in Latin. So as they decided to create a language for the entire continent, or the country, they came up with this merger of all these languages to form what's now English, or what was, as I said, Mid English, which then evolved into what we speak today. Unique part of history, or unique and interesting part of that. But it's something that you have to understand when you're sitting there reading the literature. The other thing is when you're looking at this literature, you also have to look at the time period somewhere around the Renaissance and Reformation and Enlightenment area. This is kind of where you have a very, very high religious aspect to it. So the things that I looked at and I pulled up, one is looking at laws. It starts off, of course, everything with the blessings of God and how God influences the law and all this. The other one is actually a sermon that's actually done by a school teacher that covers the uh, doctrine, the injustice of faith, and kind of looking at talking about the religious aspect and talking about God. And then the other ones, of course, that we brought up is a platform that's actually brought up by the church, and it's set up by the elders of one church to actually disseminate through the rest of New England. Last thing is looking at hymns, spiritual songs of the area. And this is also kind of interesting because Psalms is another word for hymn. And this is kind of something that they're bringing up. And it's very